For some people, life has been a constant uphill battle. For others, it feels like some periods are like swimming against the current. For a third group, life has sapped the will to live, as it feels like being stuck in quicksand. It might seem impossible to find a way out of the storm when you are in the middle of it. How can we come up with a sustainable way to start dragging ourselves into safety? Let's look at it. As true it is that life finds a way, it is also true that we have found a way to make it both pointless and self-destructive, since we became too intelligent while lacking equal amount of wisdom to balance it out as a species. Modern existence is complex, too short when having fun, too long when bored or suffering. Our minds are being torn between all our responsibilities and needs. This leaves little room for a structured way of positioning us for a fulfilling life. We believe that our mental state is heavily dependent on our energy level and the resources we have at our disposal to handle the tasks in front of us. That is to say that if you were presented with a complex and or enormous task and you could decide the scope of the expected solution, as in how long time you have to solve it and in what way will you present the solution, you would find it much easier to approach it, as you could decide how to plan your schedule to fit this and can mentally make your list of priorities. For this example to make sense, we need first to understand why we don't seem to be able to react well to even a minor inconvenience on a bad day. Burnout is something that most people have a relation to, either by own experience or knowing someone who has. Understanding how our energy levels affect our abilities to cope and solve problems is crucial in helping us strive towards healthy habits. Modern society demands a plethora of interconnected and complex responsibilities from its members, and they might be both explicit and implicit, making it hard to navigate sometimes, which might lead to a lot of subconscious stress that accumulates as we fail to be able to prioritize them correctly. These webs of demands and dependencies drain our storage of energy and need to be replenished. The problem is when we have failed to live up to critical expectations during a longer period, as our self esteem takes the hit. In the long run, we feel as we have failed in our endeavors, failed in our relationships, failed ourselves, and might end up questioning the point of all of this. And now we enter a state of questioning our own existence. Why do we actually need to do all of these things? A study published by the Association for Psychological Science highlights that burnout is not just emotional, it physically alters the brain. Chronic stress associated with burnout affects the neuroendocrine system, leading to changes in brain anatomy and function. Symptoms like emotional depletion, cynicism, and extreme fatigue overlap with depression and are linked to impaired cognitive skills, such as memory and decision making. A 2025 study using resting state EEG found that individuals with burnout showed decreased functional connectivity in the frontal and midline brain areas, especially in the alpha 3 subband during eyes open conditions. These changes were most pronounced in the right frontal brain, which is associated with executive function and emotional regulation. Chronic anxiety perpetuates a state of mental and physical exhaustion, which can hinder everyday memory, attention, and problem solving abilities. The brain remains in a heightened state of alert, which over time depletes resources needed for normal cognitive functioning. Recent scientific studies highlight cognitive behavioral models, mindfulness, and compassion focused approaches as effective mental frameworks for managing anxiety and burnout. These models emphasize changing thought patterns, emotional regulation, and contextual awareness. A 2021 study by Niklas Almen, a fellow alumnus, proposes a cognitive behavioral model explaining how clinical burnout can maintain itself even after work stress is removed. The model identifies maladaptive responses such as excessive sleep, passivity, shame, and fear of stress reactions that perpetuate burnout symptoms. It emphasizes the role of contextual factors and behaviors, suggesting that recovery requires actively changing these patterns. This model is grounded in stress theory and behavioral psychology, offering a roadmap for therapeutic intervention and research focus. A 2025 systematic review in current psychology examined psychological interventions for healthcare professionals experiencing burnout and depression. Effective models included mindfulness based stress reduction, MBSR, enhances present moment awareness and reduces rumination. Compassion focused therapy, CFT, builds emotional resilience by fostering self kindness and reducing self criticism. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, targets distorted thinking and promotes adaptive coping strategies. These interventions showed significant reductions in burnout and depressive symptoms, though more research is needed on long term effects and suicidality. A 2023 study used topic modeling to analyze thousands of PubMed abstracts related to anxiety, depression, and burnout in academic settings. It revealed recurring themes around coping strategies, institutional stressors, and mental health interventions, helping researchers identify gaps and trends in mental model development. A 2025 study from Flinders University found that self forgiveness is a complex emotional process, especially for those who feel guilt or shame over perceived failures in daily life. People who struggle to forgive themselves often feel trapped in the past, replaying moments of perceived inadequacy and feeling intense guilt, even when the events were beyond their control. Healing involves accepting limitations in judgment or control at the time, reconnecting with personal values, and focusing on future growth. Recognizing that guilt can arise even when no actual wrongdoing occurred, especially in caregiving or high responsibility roles. A 2023 meta analysis of 26 studies examined how guilt appeals influence behavior and emotion. It found that guilt can be constructive or destructive, depending on how it's framed and processed. Some key factors include perceived responsibility and control over the situation, proximity to those affected, e.g., family or coworkers, availability of reparative actions, even symbolic ones like journaling or self compassion exercises. Another study explored the psychophysiology of guilt, showing that guilt activates distinct autonomic responses compared to other emotions. This suggests that guilt is not just psychological, it has measurable physical effects, which can be addressed through mindfulness, breathing techniques, and emotional regulation therapies. Secondary guilt from daily task struggles is often rooted in unrealistic expectations and moral over responsibility. Effective coping involves self forgiveness and acceptance, reframing guilt as a signal, not a sentence, engaging in values based actions to restore agency and self worth. Some key results from these studies. Burnout is now recognized as a legitimate medical condition with its own ICD 10 code, burnout state of vital exhaustion. These findings suggest that burnout leads to disrupted neural communication, contributing to cognitive decline and emotional instability. These studies underscore the importance of early intervention, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness, and workplace reforms. Understanding neurobiological underpinnings of burnout and anxiety can help tailor treatments that restore brain connectivity and reduce stress related damage. Mental models that emphasize awareness, behavior change, and emotional regulation are most effective. Context matters. Recovery depends not just on removing stressors, but on reshaping how individuals respond to their internal and external environments. These models are increasingly being applied in clinical settings, workplace wellness programs, and academic research. These studies emphasize the importance of cognitive reframing and coping strategies to manage guilt effectively. Some personal stories. When I managed to see what needs my partner had for creating peace of mind in terms of ticking chores off the list and seeing or feeling the result, I could adjust how I saw the responsibilities of our daily lives. This resulted in awareness and sensibility for when things needed to be cleaned up, compared to me previously only seeing a mess when it inconvenienced me in some way. Just by being aware about your own feelings and perception regarding pain points in your life, you are setting up the foundation for your future process for how to create change. A small daily task, doing one chore or one exercise at home while paying attention to your daily form, is a good way to get started and helps you be kind to yourself while still making progress and getting things done. Some days we barely have enough energy to survive, never mind fulfilling all of our responsibilities. Some limitations. Bear in mind that the validity of breaking down bigger tasks in smaller steps depends on the specific circumstance. You can't go to the grocery store to just buy parts of your grocery lists, but you can let that be the only task for that specific day. When the system is in place and fully implemented, it could look something like this. Being aware that you will need to go grocery shopping in a couple of days, you make sure to cook enough food the day prior so you don't have to do it the same day as you must get groceries. When the system is set up, it is much easier to maintain. The initial effort of making the changes necessary to fit the system will pay themselves going forward by offloading the need to make decisions daily, which requires a lot of energy. When the feeling of being overwhelmed or facing something that is too big or complex for you to easily solve or handle with the most used toolset at your disposal, you might need to take a step back to see the bigger picture. Many times, these feelings come from not having enough energy in the tank to be able to dedicate the effort needed to solve it. We sometimes mistake this as us being too dumb or too lazy. At Almer, we believe that if anyone, and we mean every human being, could dedicate enough time and energy to solve a problem, they would eventually come up with a solution. The reality is that our resources are limited and pulled from everywhere for attention and priority. This picks us apart to a point where every task that demands minimum amount of effort is perceived as overwhelming. If our daily form was on top when facing the same issue, we would have enough willpower to handle it as a minor inconvenience. Some limitations. Nothing said in this episode should replace talking to mental health professionals and is not to be considered medical advice. The intention of the playlist's topic is to hopefully make you aware about models, concepts, and perspectives that you might not have thought about previously. If interested, we recommend to do your own research together with your mental health professional advisor. Some actionable advice. With this knowledge, you have some alternatives for how to approach it in your own life. Either you need to know more about this topic and how all these concepts are affecting you right now in this phase of your life. In that case, you need to educate yourself. Start with the sources in the description. If you're on the verge of actually starting to reach out for help as you have identified the problems you are facing but are still waiting for some type of sign before you pull the trigger, here it is, the sign for you to start. Go ahead. No need for waiting for any type of permission or any more procrastination. If you are well on your way already, add these studies to your arsenal. Keep creating momentum through small steps of improvement, planning ahead, sticking to the plan in the long run, and not base your self worth on any missed days. Be kind to yourself, trust the process. One step back and two steps forward. Reevaluate, regroup, rest, restart next Monday. Get an understanding of how widespread this issue is. You are far from being alone. Read through the studies linked in the description. The time is well spent and might give you a clue on how to apply it in your context. Any new information that you willingly approach can give you value. If you know that you are not there yet, strive to reach a position where you would be able to open up for the changes you need to do. Some key points. Mental health is one of the first areas that we humans need to tend to for improved quality of life. Everything else comes after this. Although there are synergies, but you need first find mental strength before you even start improving in other areas, such as physical health through exercise. Don't make the mistake of compromising with your mental well being. In the end, the people who depend on you will pay the price. If you want to be there for others, you need to take care of yourself first and foremost. If you are struggling and have the capacity to look for ways to cope, then go do that. If you're overwhelmed and don't know where to start, seek someone who can help you with that part. Don't patronize others by making decisions for their part. If you ask for help and they can't give it in the manner you present, then they are free to tell you so. If you're positioned well in your life, don't hesitate to see the people you care about. Someone might need a shoulder to lean on. If you want to support us, you can try out our Almer app. You will find it on either app store. If you are not interested in the software but want to support us in other ways, you could join our community forum or you could like and comment on this episode. That will help us out a bunch. Take care of yourself and your peers. See you in the next episode.